What does having two babies, a hysterectomy, intestinal surgery, and middle-aged woman have in common? Well, you're going to want to stay tuned to this video. Well, as I said in my first video, this channel is going to be focused on my life. I am approaching 50 years old in April. I live with progressive hearing loss that started about 8 years ago, and I'm preparing for a cochlear implant, and hopefully we'll get approved for one in April. And basically there's just gonna be no storyline here. It's gonna be just real life things as they come up. It's gonna be things that I'm going through and I'm dealing with, and I think a lot of it will resonate with you. You will find humor in it. And anyway, I had a pretty bizarre thing that I had to go through last week, and I hesitated making this video and sharing it with you, but I think that it's something that I made a commitment to share things, so I'm gonna share this experience because it was just pretty crazy. So here goes. Several years ago, I had massive pain, like it came on really quick and in my stomach, and I thought it was appendix or gallbladder or something like that. And I found out through a series of tests in the ER that I had a bowel obstruction. I guess when you've had any type of abdominal surgery, and I had a hysterectomy, you have scar tissue, and basically your intestines just kind of float around in your stomach, and it's not uncommon to have this happen. Didn't know that. So they fixed it. They went in and they fixed the obstruction, but I've never been the same since then. And I used to say, oh, I have a stomach of steel, I can eat whatever I want, and that's all changed. I can't. So since that time, I've gone through a bunch of different tests. I've seen different doctors, and but I haven't had a test quite like what I had at Mayo last week. And even the name sounds awful. The name of the test is called an anorectal manometry. Yeah. So basically, this is where any pride you have left, it's gonna go. Bye-bye. So this really nice woman, she calls me back into a room. The exam room has a bathroom attached to it. And so she asks me to take everything off from the waist down, which I do. And I get on the table, and she tells me to lay on my side. And she asks if she can put her fingers up my butt. Well, what am I gonna say? So she does, and she asks me to squeeze it like I'm gonna hold in a poop. And then she asks me to push like I'm trying to push out a poop. So that was all there was to that part. So I made it through that, and then she shows me this catheter, and the catheter has a deflated balloon attached to it. And she tells me she's going to insert that up my butt. And she does. And she says, I'm going to be filling this deflated balloon with air. And I need you to tell me when you feel it, like you feel like an urge to go. So she's pumping some air in it. She's like, okay, do you feel anything? I'm like, nope. Okay, how about that? And then she does it again. Do you feel that? Got nothing. Nope. Again, do you feel that? And I'm like, no. Am I dead inside or what? I mean, now I'm kind of freaking out. And she's like, you don't feel that? Nope. Pum, 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 pum. Oh, and of course, then right away I was like, oh yeah, I feel that. I feel that. Okay, good. So, not really sure what that all meant, but I said, was that a lot? She's like, oh yeah, that was quite a bit. Okay, so on to the next part. So the next part was just a lot of squeezing and holding and squeezing and holding, squeezing and holding. So that went on for a while, filling it up at different levels and asking me, you know, how I feel and all of that. So then she says, okay, this final part, I'm going to fill this balloon up, and then you're going to need to expel it in the toilet. I'm like, okay. Basically, like, I have to go to the bathroom. I should have that feeling like I'm gonna have to go to the bathroom. So I didn't think anything about that. I'm just glad that we're towards the end now. So she told me that in the beginning, she told me when we get to the expelling of the balloon that that's the end of the test. So I'm like, all right. So she fills it up and she says, okay, I'm gonna help you off the table because I have this like thing hanging out of my ass, like a cord basically. And I looked at her and I go, well, what if I'm not able to push this out? And she's like, oh, you know, you will be fine. And I go, but what if I'm not? And she says, well, then I'm gonna have to do it for you. I'm like, okay. But in my mind, I'm thinking, well, she said she shouldn't be a problem. But anyway, so I'm sitting on the toilet and she's in the doorway and she's looking at her computer screen because this balloon has all kinds of sensors on it. And what they're doing is checking out your muscles in your lower intestine to make sure that they're working. So she's standing in the doorway, I'm sitting on the toilet, and she's telling me when to begin pushing. So she tells me to start pushing, and I'm like pushing, pushing, pushing. And I felt like it came out, and I said, oh, I think it came out. And so she had to come over, and she had to look, and she's like, no, it's not out. She's like, just push a little harder. I'm like, okay. So she gets in the doorway, and I'm pushing, I mean, pushing. Like, I'm gonna blow an eardrum, right? No, I don't need that. And she's like, push harder, push harder. And I'm like, you know, I mean, I'm like pushing. I'm looking at her like, seriously? So we take a break. And she's like, okay, let's try this again. Really just push hard. I push harder and harder and harder. I can't push it. I mean, like, my eyeballs are gonna pop out. So I'm just like totally defeated, right? I mean, so she's like, okay, I'm gonna have to pull it out. So I have to bend over. Like, I mean, I remember like when I was a little kid, you know, my mom had to wipe my butt or whatever. So here I am, almost a 50-year-old woman, bending over so she can pull this thing out of my butt. And I'm thinking this thing has to be big, right? I mean, I don't know. And I'm like, so is this really big? She's like, no, not really. It wasn't really big. So I'm like, oh my God. So anyway, she's like, okay, you can get dressed now. And of course I get dressed, and she says, you know, we'll probably have the results back later today. So be sure to check the portal and you'll be able to see everything. So I was like, all right, thank you. I mean, imagine this woman, this is her job, like to put her fingers up people's butt. And I mean, I hope she gets paid well for that. I'm sure she does, but oh my gosh. So I left there with my head hanging low, and I'm not even to work yet, and I see the results are in. So the doctor sends me a message on the portal, and he tells me that the results are what he expected or thought it would be. And basically, when you're a woman, middle age, and if you've had babies vaginally, you have a hysterectomy, you've had intestinal surgery, what happens is your pelvic muscles, you have almost like a hammock of muscles between your pelvic bones. Well, those become weaker as you get older, and then if you've had any type of surgery, so my hysterectomy, my insides basically are just kind of jiggling around down there, I guess, and it makes your pelvic floor weak. And this test showed that you have basically your intestinal system works involuntarily. Like, we don't have to think about it. It's like our heart. It just works. It works. It works. But then when we get that urge to have to go to the bathroom, that's our voluntary muscles where we can, let's say we're in a meeting at work or something and you feel like you have to go, but you can hold it. That's a voluntary muscle. So my involuntary muscle and my voluntary muscle, I guess, aren't working together. So it's called like a pelvic floor dysfunction. And hold on. Okay, so the doctor said you have this pelvic floor dysfunction, and there's therapy for that. And I'm going to send you to physical therapy for biofeedback therapy. I have no idea what I'm getting into here, but this is all like, I'm just trying to wrap my mind around what it means and the therapy. And so I'm waiting to get an order for therapy to go for whatever that involves. I have no idea. All I keep saying to myself is, midlife, I'm in maintenance mode, man. I'm in maintenance mode. Like, I mean, you know, have a few kids, have some surgeries, you know, turning 50, half a century. You know, your body needs some maintenance. So that's where I'm at. You might be wondering what led to all of this. I mean, I've had a lot of stomach issues, which affects going to the bathroom and, you know, feeling like you have to, you know, the urge to go is very quickly. I have to go now, or you can't go. I mean, there's extremes to that. So it's that. And then in addition to, the most problematic for me has been my back, like my lower back between my waist and my rib cage. It's just feels bruised. It feels like I've been beat up all the time. So they thought, oh, well, you know, your gallbladder, that could be that. And so I went through like several different types of gallbladder tests, and it wasn't. My gallbladder's working fine. I get nauseated a lot in the middle of the night. I'll feel like I have to throw up, or I'll just start getting pain in my stomach for no reason. So it's just been a lot of that, kind of a perfect storm of different things. So it hasn't really been all of the bathroom issue. Really, the majority of what I've been experiencing has been just this lower back pain that doesn't go away. They checked my kidneys and liver and all that, and that's all fine. But apparently it's this pelvic floor muscle or whatever. So I'm getting ready to get started on that journey. I did find out, let's end this on a positive note. I did find out that next month, the end of March, I'm going to have some vestibular testing, and that is going to be necessary to make sure that I'm going to be ready and able to have my right ear done, my cochlear implant in my right ear. So I'm on the path to hopefully get a yes on that journey. And the end of March, I will have that test, and they said that that's going to be the make or break, because my first test, or I should say my first cochlear implant, I had a lot of balance issues in the beginning. I've overcome a lot of that, majority of it actually, but now they want to make sure that I'm not going to have anything like that happen worse with my right ear. So if everything goes cool with that, then I'll get the go ahead, the green light to move forward with the cochlear implant journey on my my right ear. So anyway, that is all I have for now. If you haven't already, please subscribe and follow my journey. And stay tuned till next week for some more fun.